Hello and welcome to the Cup of Triathlon podcast. We're brought to you every week by our sponsors, oxygenaddict.com,
Triathlon Coaching with Coach Rob,
triathlonbox.co.uk,
to keep everything neat in transition,
and we are bikehouse.co.uk
for all your cycling needs.
And also a big shout out, thank you very much to all the patrons of the show who help support the show and keep it coming out week after week, bringing you interviews with who we think are the most interesting triathletes around at the moment. Hells, what have we got coming up on today's show?
Well, on this week's show, Rob, we have an interview with Commonwealth champion Jodi Stimpson.
Jodi Stimpson?
Yes, Jodi Stimpson.
No way!
Yep, I caught up with her when she was out in the French Alps. She's currently training out there. She'll be coming back to the UK this week because she's going to be racing at the ITU WTS race in Leeds.
Leeds, Super Leeds,
yep,
as they used to shout.
Over in Leeds. So, I took the opportunity to talk to her about well, obviously we touched on the Olympics quite a bit, and so some really, really interesting thoughts from her there. Because I think everyone would have, everyone listening probably knows that Jodi unfortunately didn't get that third place which was going. So Vicky Holland and Non Stanford had already met the criteria, the selection criteria for Rio, and then it was Helen Jenkins almost in a head-to-head with Jodi Stimpson for that third spot on the women's side, and Helen Jenkins had the race of her life at Gold Coast, and Jodi didn't. So Helen got the let's go got
Yeah, let's go got.
Ahead of Jodi. So I don't know, Rob, you know when you got your heart set on something and you've been working towards it for sort of more than 4 years. I mean, she took up triathlon as a real youngster. So
yeah.
And she missed out on London 2012, and then to miss out again on Rio, absolutely gutting.
Yeah, breaks your heart, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right, let's go straight in. We've not got any news or race reports this week because we're pre-recording this one, so that's why we haven't got any of the usual race results and reports going on. So we'll go straight into our interview with Jodi Stimpson.
Jodi Stimpson, hello and welcome to the Cover of Triathlon podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me.
It's a real. I feel very honoured to have you on, Jodi.
I feel honoured to be on, to be honest.
So tell us where you're talking to us from at the moment.
At the minute, I'm above the clouds in Avoriaz, France.
Okay, and is that with the D Squad and Darren Smith?
It is, yeah. Well, to be honest, I'm up the mountain solo at the minute, so I am really up the mountain on my own because everybody else is still in Morzine, which is basically about the 12k climb downwards in town.
Okay, and how long are you out there for?
I'm out here until the 4th of August when I'll come back to the UK for the London Tri, but I'll basically be based here for the next few WTS races.
Yep, so that'll kind of be the base to do the European ones, basically.
Yeah.
And so are you at altitude there? Is that the point of being in the French Alps?
Yeah, well, Avoriaz is about 1,800 metres, and Morzine is 1,000. So at the minute I'm doing my altitude block up here, and everybody else will come up. We kind of cross paths, to be honest. Like when I go down, everybody else comes up. So yeah, it is what it is.
So you really are there. Is there anyone else around?
It's really weird. Like the whole of Avoriaz is obviously closed because it's the crossover. The winter season's finished, even though there's still snow up here. So I mean, nobody else would come up here apart from a crazy person who wants the altitude. So everything is closed and there's no shops or anything open here. So it's a bit weird. I went for a run this morning and I was still running over patches of like ankle deep snow in places, which was a bit bizarre. So not liking that too much. So I'm hoping that the rain that I have at the minute will at least try and wash that away, maybe.
Wow. And so can you talk us through what is a typical week like when you're on camp in France, for example?
Well, logistically, it's a bit more difficult when I'm up here. But to be honest, when people ask me like my training schedule, it varies from day to day. So we don't kind of we do this every day. We kind of, most days we'll kind of swim, bike, run, and some days we'll go down to by Lake Geneva and have a track session, swim down there and have another run. It just all depends on the day.
Yeah. And sort of quantity wise, is it? I mean, would your day start, I guess, at around about 6ish or something, and then kind of bed around 9ish?
Well, to be honest, bed around 9 is a late night for me usually.
Is it?
I'm a real early to bed person. So I kind of start getting ready for bed like 8, half 8, if I'm honest. But saying that, like, training here doesn't usually start. I mean, when I'm back home and when I was in South Africa, it started at like 5 a.m. swim start, and then here it's like quite nice because we start at 7.
Oh, a bit of a lion.
Yeah, I mean we have to be honest, because it's so cold. And we'll see now.
And do you have, I don't know, when you're on camp, are you cooking all your own food and things, or is there someone there to kind of help with the nutrition side of things?
Oh, I wish I had a chef.
Hey, I've got to ask.
Oh, that would be amazing. No, I'd do it all myself. That would be amazing.
But when you're all together with D Squad, like, and you are all in the same place, do you sort of share the cooking between you sometimes, or do you just do your own thing?
Well, you kind of pick who you live with, really, and like as I am at this block, I really will be. It sounds quite sad, really, but I'll be on solo because the other teammates are kind of going to Rio, so they will be at different points of altitude, so we won't be living together.
Yep.
But usually, like when you live with someone, you'll kind of get into a habit of cooking together or cooking separately. Like I spent a lot of time living with Aileen Reid last year from Ireland, so we kind of alternated, which was quite nice. Because we eat kind of the same amounts of things and same foods and stuff, so that was quite nice.
And just because us age groupers love getting a different perspective on things, can you tell us what might be like a typical food that you might take in during the day, and like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and perhaps in between during sessions and stuff?
Yeah, well, I kind of start and I have to have something to eat before training. I'm not a person that can train off no fuel, so but it's quite simple. Just have like rice cakes with like peanut butter and honey or something in the morning before my first session, and a coffee, of course, and then go train and come back, and it can be fruit, yogurt. I might soak some oats overnight if I'm feeling adventurous. Yeah. And then come back, or just have like, it just depends on how long the session is, I suppose. Like scrambled eggs is always a good one.
Yep.
Then go train again, and lunch will just be usually a sandwich or eggs if I haven't had that for breakfast. And then train again, and then come back. And usually I like having like quite a big salad on a night with just like tonight I'll have like salmon salad and some bread.
Yep.
That's what I've got on the menu tonight.
In the Jodi Stimpson cafe.
Yes, in the Jodi Stimpson cafe in my little apartment in Avoriaz.
Oh, excellent. And what was it like when you first went and joined the D Squad?
Well, I kind of joined. It was it was over the London period, actually. The London 2012 is when I first went and met Darren. He was obviously there with his D Squad that were at the Olympics. And I went and met him for a coffee down, because I was a reserve for that one and had to go down on the Thursday for the briefing. And I went down and met him for coffee, and from there really, he's very, like, my first conversation with him was, oh, well, you're not very good at swimming, cycling or running, really. I was like, oh, thanks, coach. Right, okay. That's a good introduction to Darren. And that kind of gives you the insight, really, that, that's what makes him so good. I think he's just a perfectionist.
Yeah.
And he's never really happy. So he's always striving for perfection, if you like, which is, annoying in one way, but is what we need.
And so how would you say he has developed you over the last 3 3/4 years then?
I think, to be honest, that mindset that he kind of gives you, that, triathlon is not just simply swimming, cycling and running, and in training just going and doing it, without thinking, which is to me is the easy bit for me, is just going and, giving it to myself in training. I love doing that, and occasionally he does let me do that and just says, go on, let rip, and, just give it to yourself. It is very rare that he lets me do that. But it's just kind of thinking of, the little things, and I never thought of technique, and I never thought of, doing things better in that way, and that's the main reason why I think he's improved me so much.
And do you obviously enjoy that squad environment?
Oh yeah, I mean, like you click with certain people, of course, and you can't get along with everybody. And at the minute it's kind of a very small group. But I'm really lucky that I, get on extremely well with Marie Robbie and Lisa Norden.
Yeah. So it's like the three of you. Because because I saw because when you were out in South Africa, you spent a lot of time, like the three of you all training your butts off, didn't you?
Yeah, it was, that was a really, really good period of training, and I'd been out there from November really, and kind of was out there and just back for I think 10 days over Christmas, but then I was back out to South Africa again before Abu Dhabi, and it was just a really solid, hard-working group, all really motivated and just wanting to do a good job.
Have you ever wanted to go and sort of go up to Leeds and be based there?
No, it sounds really bad.
It doesn't sound bad because everybody's different, but I was just wondering.
And it's nothing to do with the girls, or it's nothing to do with, the group up there. They're, lovely people. Non is, one of the nicest people you could meet, and so is Vicky. But it's been in kind of, I think, that federation clique kind of thing. It doesn't really suit me. And it was the same when it was at Loughborough. People would say, why don't you go and train at Loughborough? And it just doesn't appeal to me. It's too much, even though this is a very pressured environment, that's a different pressure, if you like. And I think it's quite suffocating, I find it.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously Helen Jenkins isn't based up there either, and so there is that flexibility, isn't there, that you don't have to be there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I mean, you are right. It works for some people and works for others. I suppose, like, I'm still in that kind of camp environment, but I just find it quite nice that it's a different kind of, there's people from different countries here, and I don't feel like I'm getting so much looked at by the federation, if you like, even though the federation have been so supportive since I joined Darren. It's just different, yeah.
When you found out about the selection for Rio, how did you find out? Was it an email, or what was it?
I mean, officially, yes, it was email, and I've had quite a few things, like people saying, oh, they should have really called you. And to be honest, I was quite shocked I didn't get the call, but in one way, I knew as soon as I crossed the line in Gold Coast, like, I just knew that was the race that I needed to perform in, and I didn't. And Helen couldn't have done a better job. So I knew as soon as I crossed the line.
Did you know before the line? Did you know sort of, I don't know, what was going on in your mind on the run, or when you got to T2, were you still sort of believing in everything at that point, or what was that bit like?
I mean, obviously on the bike, I knew like Helen was away in a breakaway, and then when I was on the run, like I knew Helen was leading. Obviously, when you cross paths and stuff, but I suppose. And you don't let it sink in or I didn't let it sink in until I crossed the line. I didn't stop fighting until I finished. I'm getting goosebumps. Woo.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was just not the day to have a bad day, and I had it. It was so emotional, and I crossed the line and I just burst, and I don't think I stopped crying then until probably a day before Cape Town, to be honest.
Oh my God. I know, I read your blog, and I know a lot of people will have read your blog, and I'm getting goosebumps now. And it was just, I don't know, you wanted to sort of like reach out and just give you a massive, massive hug, because it must have been horrible.
Oh, one of the things in the blog was like, and everyone's saying, "Oh, you shouldn't be sorry, and you shouldn't feel like you've let anyone down," and but that is my feeling, and you can't help the way that you feel, and I still feel that way, and I know everybody is not disappointed at me and for me, and I've heard it so many times, but triathlon, yeah, it's an individual sport when you're racing, but there's so much more than that, and there's so many people that have, given up their time. And my coach Darren, he was, so emotional. He gives up so much of, his life, and my family and friends. They're not the kind of normal family and friends, and their life is triathlon as well. And it's amazing when they get to see the highs with you, and but especially my mom and my sister and my dad, they see me at my lowest points, and that's very emotional for them as well. So that's why I feel like I've let people down. There's so many people on this journey, and when people explain it as like an emotional roller coaster, that's putting it mildly.
It's almost like that sort of grieving process, isn't it? Whereby you go through a whole range of emotions, and yeah, complete emotion to begin with, and then probably a bit of anger as well in there, and then you sort of gradually, bit by bit, you kind of come to terms with it as well.
Oh yeah, definitely is a grieving process, and I was so emotional and so heartbroken, and I don't know how Cape Town happened. I have no idea. And getting through that, and I was just, yeah, I've been angry and at no one else but myself. But then, saying that I couldn't have done any more in that race, I really couldn't have. It was one of those that was just a bad day, and my body just didn't let me push hard, and for whatever reason, I wish there was a reason, but there's just not. It just wasn't meant to be, and that's the hardest thing. The hardest thing is just knowing that I wasn't good enough on that day, that I needed to be, and that's the hardest bit to kind of put by. And the grieving process is not over. It's I saw some kit releases, and when the teams talked about on Twitter, and it said 100 days to go. And even things like, I was talking to Marie on the bike today, and she spoke about the Rio course, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to get to do that. And it's like, so it's gonna, but now I've got a focus now, which I'm going to give my all for the series, and and that's got to be my focus now.
Have you spoken to people like Liz Blatchford, for example, who would have, she missed out on London 2012 as well, and then has gone on now onto longer distance. Have you spoken to people like her?
Yeah, like Liz is amazing, and she's a very good friend. And I also spoke to Jodi Swallow when I got back into Stellenbosch as well. And those two athletes, particular, they're girls that as I was younger and looking up, and they were racing GB, and they were the best in the world. And Liz was actually there at the race, and she saw me preparing for the race as well on the Gold Coast a little bit, and and other people that have actually made their teams as well, like Emma Moffat, and from numerous other countries like Gwen, and having support of the women that I race against in the WTS races, I mean, that's quite special as well. And to have messages from those guys, over social media and stuff, and it's just nice to have their support as well. And I know they're genuine people, and they actually mean what they put. So that's quite nice to have, that friendship.
That's really amazing, and I don't think you'd get that in many sports.
Oh, definitely not. I mean, as soon as I crossed that line on Gold Coast, it was actually Andrea Hewitt that first came up to me, and she got emotional as well, and she was teary and crying as well. And I think, we're all going through this process, and it's a hard process, and like even the people that have made their teams, well, they've made it and they've deservedly got their spots, especially like people like Andrea, but she just knows what it takes and what we're all going through, and I think that support is very unique.
Will you look to Tokyo, or do you? I mean, God, it seems so long away, but is it sort of perhaps a possibility?
A possibility, as in to say I'll still be racing triathlon, of course. Like when people say, "What are you going to do after triathlon?" I'm like, "Well, I'm going to be the oldest finisher in Kona."
You're going to beat Sister. What's her name? Sister something. The really really old lady who does it.
That's the goal. That's the goal. But at the minute, it's kind of I want to go for another Commonwealth Games. When people say Tokyo, I don't know if my heart can take another Olympic cycle. I don't know if I can put my family through it. I know it's extremely raw at the minute, and obviously we'll assess how things are going at that point. At the minute, I really don't know.
No, it is something that it's like 4 years, isn't it? Of just like a pressure pot to try to get to those Olympic Games.
Yeah, it's like it's not so much like kind of the 4 years, if you like. It's more kind of the process, like this section of the process when it just comes down, especially being so close. It's I don't know if I could do that again emotionally. Is my answer at the minute, I think.
Yeah. And Jodie, do you like if you were in another nation? This is the annoying bit. If you were in another nation which sort of didn't have 4, 5 of the best females, like you'd be there, and that's what's really tough, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of like, especially starting off the year so well, and like I think in my heart, on my day, I think I've got a shot at a medal, and like knowing that this sounds really horrible, but knowing that some of the girls on the start line, have just got in from being on a different nation, that's hard, like that's really hard. But then I suppose my response to that is, well, would I, have had the success that I've had if I wasn't in such a strong nation? I don't know, because I think that's what makes GB women bring up the bar, because we have to, because there's so many GB women that are so good.
Yeah, and everyone's pushing each other.
Exactly.
So do you think you might go into longer distances?
I think I definitely will eventually. It's nowhere near the near future at all, because I can't sit on a saddle for that long. I've got so much respect for the long distance guys. I tell you, I did Bahrain.
Yeah, you did, didn't you?
Yeah, and I mean that was my first and only 70.3 I've ever done. And I blew up at 60k, where Caroline Steffen came zooming past me, and I remember running the half at the end actually with Caroline, and I've never felt such an overload on my body when I crossed that line. I just couldn't put one step in front of the other. I don't know how they do it at Ironman. It's like, oh my God, the pain that they must be in when they finish is ridiculous. So at the minute, no, but it will be in the far future.
But how did the pain of Bahrain at the finish line compare to a sprint at the finish line?
Oh, it's weird. It's like a different pain. Like I feel like I'm gonna absolutely throw up at the end of like a sprint or Olympic. And I suppose my body, you can't sleep after a race. Doesn't matter how short it is. Like the night of a race, I'm up all night. It's ridiculous. But when I crossed the line at Bahrain, it was like more of a seize up, but it was like so straight. As soon as I crossed the line, like I couldn't walk to the medical tent. I was like, oh my God, this is so bizarre. Like, oh my God.
Oh, so would you like to do Kona one day, do you think?
Oh, I'd love to. I think I was there actually 2012 because we were preparing for a bit bizarrely for the New Zealand was our grand final that year in the World Series, and Darren actually had a few athletes that were racing Kona, so he was going to be there, and we wanted to be with Darren, so we were like, well, we'll take that. We'll go and prepare in Kona. Why not? So we went and prepared in Kona when the race was going on, and it's how amazing. Anyone that has been to Kona, it's just, we were there before the triathlon took over Kona, and it was like a ghost town. It was bizarre. And then the week leading into it, it was a triathlon mecca. It was amazing. And just everyone that's just, I mean, triathlon's so friendly and, such a great sport to be involved in. And Kona's just like another level. It is like triathlon on steroids. It's it's wicked.
And what did you learn from that experience out there?
It was, I've got so much respect. I can't say enough how much respect I've got for these long course guys that, Kona is another level. It's just a race on the pedestal of, it's the elements of what Kona gives you that makes that course. You have to really race your own race. You can't, like in WTS, you kind of, you're always against other people. You're looking at other people. You're catching breaks, and it's always very tactical. Yep. Whereas Kona, yes, it is slightly like on another way, but if you try and race somebody else's race, then your race is over. It won't last very long, and it's just having that confidence to race your own race. It's amazing to be on, even just to watch it.
What would you have to improve, do you think, if you were to step up to Ironman?
You have to give me a couple of years at 70.3 first before I even think about an Ironman. My God. I mean, I'd like to think, like, obviously everything could be won or lost on the bike. I think my swim's quite solid, especially going up to a longer distance. And then definitely the bike and the run would so have to be improved. Like we don't train. They say that training for an Olympic, you can do it quite similar to a 70.3. You just have to bike a bit more. Yep. Because it's still so fast. Like the 70.3 guys are going super fast. So like training wouldn't have to change too much for that. But Ironman is just, it would totally have to change. I'd have to spend a lot more time on my bike, to be fair.
So when might we see you on the start line of another 70.3, Jodie?
I'd like to say next year, to be honest. Only because, it's the year after the Olympics, and, that's the year to kind of, go and have a bit more of races that you just fancy doing, and not have to, because now you kind of don't have much room to do anything else apart from WTS races if you want to be competitive in the series. You kind of you can't venture out too much from it. I think next year.
Awesome. And do you think next year you might mix it up a bit with 70.3s and WTS?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I love Olympic distance, and I love sprint distance, and I'm not moving away from the WTS races at all. That is still my focus and will be. But the 70.3 is just, it's something different to challenge myself, I suppose, next year. I might do one and go, why the hell did I do another one? This is far too long.
Do you think we could see you in Staffordshire, like sort of just down the road from you, or would you go for warmer climes?
No, I love racing local races. Like 2 weeks ago, I did like a sprint distance, Phoenix sprint distance. That was awesome fun, just because it's local, and I love racing at home. That's why I'm looking forward to Leeds. Just because so much like family can come up and support and actually be in the same country, and GB have an amazing age group. races, triathletes, and we have the best support out there when it comes to ours, and we've been extremely lucky. Well, I've been extremely lucky to have some races like this year that just feel like a home race, just because of the amount of support GB age groupers give us. It's incredible.
I think Leeds is going to be absolutely buzzing.
Oh, it's going to be. Oh, I'm so looking forward to it. It's going to be amazing. I mean, I've saw some pictures already that's got, a big picture of non-Vicky, Johnny, and Alistair's head, just like on these big billboard things. I'm sure they love it. But I love it. I'm going to go take a selfie next to one of their big heads.
Oh, what's been your sort of? Do you have a most memorable race?
Oh, I think it's got to be obviously between Glasgow Commonwealths and Kitzbühel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be Glasgow, because obviously it was like a home race, and the best memory of that is crossing the line, and the grandstand was obviously within touching distance, and I just went straight over, and there was my dad, my mum and my sister and my niece, in the grand, like my family was just in the grandstand, and I just got to go and embrace them, and to have them literally, there at the finish line, when I finished, and that medal was obviously for them, and it was so much, a part of them as it was me doing it, and Kitzbühel was kind of the same, to be honest. Like, my mum is known for not watching races. She can't watch them because she gets too nervous. Yeah, like the Commonwealths, she didn't watch it until I think the last lap of the run. And that was only when I hit the blue carpet, I think. But with Kitzbühel, it was like a punishment because she had to get the gondola up to the top, and obviously she was stuck on the top of the mountain then, so she had to watch it because she was stuck on top of the mountain and couldn't go anywhere. So usually she goes to the other side of Hyde Park, or literally, so she can't even hear on the tannoys. And Kitzbühel, she was stuck on top of the mountain, so she had to watch.
Is that because of nerves, or?
Yeah, she gets so nervous. Like, there was, in the Commonwealths, they said, oh, and they've had a crash, someone in a red tri-suit. And obviously we had the England red tri-suit, but it wasn't. It was one of the Canadians that had come off. She was so nervous. She gets so nervous.
Oh, which must make it so much more special, like in Glasgow when you got the medal and stuff.
Oh, definitely. Like, I'm super close to my family, and I love them to death. Like, they're my best friends as well as my family, and to have them there. That's why I love local races, because they get to actually. I mean, there is so much a part of it. Like, I email my mum like every morning, like we like to and from emails, and it's just that connection. I think is really special, and so when they get to come and watch me race. It's amazing. Like, mum and dad actually came out to Abu Dhabi, and saw that. It just makes it so much more special.
Yeah. So will they be? It's Mexico this year, isn't it? The grand final.
Oh, I'd love to get them out to Mexico, but I don't think my bank balance will handle that.
Have a word with Tia or something.
Oh God, I'd love it. But Mum's going to come to Hamburg, so she'll get to watch Hamburg. But I don't think for any of the other ones this year. It'll have to be on the triathlon.org website, I think.
Oh, come on, Tia. Be a good sponsor. Sort out some plane tickets for Jodie's family to get to Mexico.
Oh, I wish.
And Jodie, I was wondering, Kitzbühel, I remember watching you on the TV, and you absolutely nailed that bike in Kitzbühel, didn't you?
Oh, that was wicked. In the lead up to that, this story, Darren loves telling this story, because I was getting my backside handed to me in training by all the other squad, and I was like, Darren, I don't think I should go. I'm gonna get embarrassed. I'm gonna get so annihilated. It's gonna be such a nightmare. Should I pull out? And he was like, Jode, I think you'll be all right. I was like, okay. And then we had like the pre-talk before it, and he was like, yeah, he said, just, if you're at the 2K mark to go on the bike, just, give it a go. And I was like, yeah, right. Like, thinking, yeah, I'm not going to be there. I'm going to get spat out the back by that point. And then I was still there, and I was like, okay, 3K to go. God, I'm still here. And then I got 2K to go. I was like, oh God, right, let's have a go then. Like, what have I got to lose? And it was just such a shock. I think it was just like, my God. And I just remember his cheesy grin at the top when I finished. And he was like, and he just loves telling that story to everyone that, I was like going to him, should I pull out? Should I pull out? I'm glad he said no.
Do you think that was a confidence game? As in, do you think it was a bit of a confidence thing? He knew that you'd be absolutely fine.
Yeah, like definitely. Like everyone, like when you cross the line and you've had a good race, like you're on cloud nine, and you're absolutely buzzing. But that confidence it gets less and less of how it lasts. Like, and like you soon go into like this self doubt then of, God, am I good enough? Like, God, can I do this? I've forgotten how to do it. Oh my God. It's really bizarre. Like you have this like good result, and like the confidence that you take from it is obviously great at that time, but then it just takes like that. Darren's awesome at it, and he kind of gives you that confidence back. But he knows when things have been going well, and how you're training and stuff. He knows if you're going to do good or bad in the races.
And what about you were saying about the confidence thing? What about having to come back from injury? What's that like on the WTS circuit? If you've been out for quite a while, like you were, and that first race back?
Well, it's really tough. Like especially because then you don't have anything to look at. And like me racing last year, I was coming good, but I literally ran out of time. And that winter phase is so important. It's like, and I missed it all. Like I wasn't running throughout the whole winter phase, and you could really just tell. And Darren's great, but he also is realistic, and he knows that all the other girls were they'd had this good winter phase, and I hadn't. And you can't fake it there's no faking in WTS. You can't. That's why it's a world circuit. And you just kind of have to. Darren explains it as you've got your toolbox and you've got all your tools in it. And, if you're underdone, then you kind of have to use the tools that you've got to get the best job done. And that's kind of the mentality that we had to go into in the races last year, just because I wasn't able to do the training that I wanted to early doors.
And so was that looking back at past experiences and using that, along with obviously the fitness that you had been able to get. So i.e. remembering back to Glasgow, for example, you had to focus on that to kind of get yourself mentally in the right place. I don't know. Yeah,
like I suppose mentally, like that's kind of, once I'm in the race, if that makes sense. And, I can, as I say, giving it to myself, that's the easy bit for me. But I suppose when I say like tools in the toolbox, it's kind of, well, I knew that I hadn't done the running, so I had to be more sensible on the bike. So you had to kind of be more tactically aware on the bike. And, it's just simple things like, choosing the right gear selection so you don't burn out your legs, or, not being silly and doing too much work on the front, and, in some cases being a bit cheeky and not going to the front at all. I kind of had to do a very tactical races and try and be a bit smarter in that front to get the best race out of myself.
Talking about tactics, do you think Non and Vicky and Helen will be riding together in Rio to try to make a break off that front pack to basically beat Gwen on the bike?
Oh, most definitely. But I think everybody knows that. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a GB thing. I think it's everybody knows on the circuit that, it's going to be a very hard, swim, bike, run, but, emphasis on that swim, bike. Because the girls, Gwen is an amazing runner and no one is near her. And, and kind of to beat someone like Gwen, you need time going into T2. Like you're not going to beat her on a foot race. So I mean, not only Gwen either. You know, there's going to be runners that you necessarily don't want on your bike pack. So I think there's some girls in there that kind of, to get the best race, what they need that breakaway. And it's going to be a hard bike. And definitely the 3GB girls, I think, are definitely up for that. You know, to give it a hard swim bike run. So I think it's going to be a good race.
Do you think you'll watch it?
Ooh. I'd be lying if I said no. It's going to be such a hard race to watch. But yeah, I will watch it. But then I'll probably go out for a ridiculous either killer session or extremely long straight after.
Yeah.
To get some such frustration out.
What's it like when Gwen comes past you on the run?
You try and hold on. It doesn't usually last very long. But you kind of it's going to happen at some point. There's been a couple of there's been one occasion that she didn't come past. No, there's two. There's two occasions where she didn't come past. One of them was a breakaway in New Zealand, and the other one was another breakaway in Cape Town that we just got time on her that she just couldn't catch. But in both races, it was like I was being hunted.
And do you talk with the other girls when you're on the bike, saying, "Come on, we've got to push harder here. We've got to get this gap to her"?
Not necessarily to Gwen. Like it's not like, oh my God, Gwen's not here, let's go. It's more of that opportunity of a breakaway, and if you get the right girls with you, then everybody pushes and everybody wants to ride hard, which is great. It's great to be in a breakaway like that. It's because everybody's buzzing and everybody's like riding hard together. And it's great when that happens, and to be in that scenario.
So like a Flora Duffy or an Andrea Hewitt, that kind of an athlete.
Oh yeah, definitely. And to be honest, like the GB girls as well, like they ride hard, and you know, someone like Lisa or Marie or these other girls that can ride super hard. Like it's great to be in that position. To be in that breakaway and to know that it's quite bizarre. It's nice to be, in one way, to be hunted like that, because it just makes you ride hard.
And looking at the guys' event, is Alistair Brownlee going to defend his title?
I think so.
Yeah?
I think so. I think he's been very sensible in his approach this year. And I think he's the best performer on one day. And you see, I think it's going to be a great race though. Obviously between Mario, Johnny, Javier. I think they're the guys that are going to make it a great race. But you've got to back Alistair. Like he's the performer on one day. He hasn't done it like most recently, obviously. But just knowing his mentality, I think I would back Alistair.
And again, he had that surgery, didn't he? So he's had to sort of take his time and, as you say, be very, very sensible this year. Yeah,
which is not his strongest point. I would say politely. But because he's been forced to do it that way, I think it's a blessing in disguise, because it's kind of made him slow down. And Alistair's the kind of person that you have to make do these things, because he won't do it. He's Emma Deakin is GB's main physio, and I think she's spent numerous sleepless nights about Alistair. So it would be kind of a blessing in disguise that he's been forced to do this.
Jodie, and I want to know, is there anyone in the sort of triathlon world who, current or retired, who you just have you respect so much, and who's maybe influenced your career?
Oh, Chrissy, definitely Chrissy. Chrissy's amazing. a kind of online mentor, if you like. She kind of, writes to me before races and gives me, quite a guidance of things that I wouldn't necessarily do. Like if after I finished second in the series the second year under Darren, like she wrote to me and says, just go and make sure you enjoy it and stuff like that we kind of take for granted. And I think Chrissy's such a balanced person and just seeing how genuinely nice she is, off the circuit is quite inspirational and how she races. I love that. I love how she races and just gives it to herself. So I definitely say Chrissy and reading her book, she's just, a very inspirational person.
Well, Jodie, I don't think many people listening to this will have failed to have been inspired by you as well from the strength that you've shown this year and bouncing back from what must have been horrible. So I think hats off to you as well.
Oh, thank you very much. But it's got a lot to do with the support that I've had. I couldn't have done it without the support I've had, and I mean that's not just only friends and family. That it's every GB age group out there that has sent me a message or that I just know I've got so much support. I think that's what's made me find a way to get through a really difficult phase. And yeah, thank you to everybody who's just believed in me and still believes in me, I think.
Well, best of luck from us for the World Series this year.
Thank you very much.
You've got to really feel for her, haven't you?
Yep, really, really do. And she was so good to open up so much with me about it all, and I really enjoyed chatting to her. We had a good chat there, and things like what's it like when Gwen Jorgensen passes you on the run? I mean, it's good to we watch that on TV, don't we? We're not on that start line. We're not at 8K or whatever 6K of the run, knowing that Gwen's about to catch you or something like that. So it's good to get an insight from one of the top ITU races on the female side, and it's just such a shame that GB can only send 3 athletes to Rio because that's what's tough, isn't it?
She's a genuine medal contender.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's not, they wouldn't be sending someone along to make up the numbers. She's a genuine medal contender, and she's been on the podium on a world-class stage so many times. It's just really heartbreaking that, as much as you understand the reason why wildcards get given to developing countries, I'd love it if they could give wildcards out in situations like this where there's a genuine chance of a medal. And it's a bit like the American sprinters, isn't it, and the track and field team?
Yeah, totally.
You can be the 4th best in the world and not to even get to go.
That is exactly it. And it just seems really hard, doesn't it, knowing that there'll be other people on that start line who you could beat.
Yeah. Well, good luck to her at Leeds this coming weekend. It'll be good for her to go and smash that course, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be Rob, it's going to be such a good race at Leeds. I was looking at the start list earlier, and you got both reigning Olympic champions who are on the start list, so Alo Brownlee and Nicola Spirig. Then you've got both reigning world champions as well. So Javier Gomez is going to be going head-to-head, and Gwen Jorgensen as well. So it is a pretty decent race that Leeds is going to be putting on.
Sure is. I mean, just imagine. It's Leeds.
I know!
Whoever would have thought that a few years ago?
It's great, isn't it? And
world hotbed of triathlon talent that it's become.
Well, I'm just hoping that there is an atmosphere that we are very familiar with now in the UK. We love our live events, don't we?
No doubt. With the Tour de Yorkshire and the crowds that come out for that, I think it's been completely embraced. Yorkshire's become endurance capital of Europe.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm overstating it slightly.
Well, I don't know. Somewhere in Spain might argue with that one, but
yeah, maybe.
Who knows?
Oh, cool.
It'd be
All
a good
right.
one. It would be a good one
It
to
sure will.
enter.
Make sure you get on the old TV box and watch that then if you're not racing this weekend.
Definitely.
Okay, Coach's Couch this week. We've got a question from Dylan all the way down in Melbourne, Australia. The question relates to strength training.
Hey, Rob and Helen. I'm a long-time listener, originally from Wolverhampton, but now live in sunny Melbourne. Love your podcasts and especially the guests. I've learned so much, so keep up the good work. My question is centered around strength training. More so about lower body strength training. I would like to reach out and get some advice and your opinions. I'm trying to get in about 3-4 sessions in a week, so 2 upper body sessions, 2 lower body sessions. I find that I can fit in the upper body strength training in any day, so that being after easy runs, hard runs, easy bike rides, hard bike sessions, so forth. I'm just at a stop trying to fit in one of the lower body sessions in around the weekend. So far I've experimented by doing it the day before a long run, after a long run, and even the day after a long run. The other session is typically halfway through the week. I'd like to know if there is any ideal partitioning or where you would typically throw in that lower body strength session around the weekend. From your experiences, when would you throw in that session, especially around the sort of weekend long run type period, so before or after, on the day? So yeah, again, keep up the good work, guys, and definitely stay safe training out there. And I'll tell all my mates here in Australia to listen to you guys. Take care.
Okay, Dylan, thanks very much for your question. I think it's a good question and one that comes up quite a lot, the question of how triathletes should do strength training and fit it in around swim, bike and run. And you've identified the key problem that most people find here. It's that, when do you do the lower body leg strength training around the fact that you've got a long run to do? If you do it before the long run, you end up running with sore legs. If you do it after the long run, you're doing strength training on tired legs already. So where's it appropriate to fit in? Well, the first thing I'd say is it sounds like if you're already doing, you said you're doing 2 strength sessions a week on your lower body, why not just cut that down to 1 strength session on your lower body? Keep that other session well away from your long run, because when you think about it, a lot of the work that you're doing on the bike already is actually strength training. It's the kind of training that a runner would consider to be strength training. You're using your glutes, your quads, your hamstrings to create a lot of force within them, and that in itself is going to make them stronger. So I'd firstly question whether you actually need to be doing a lot of traditional strength training within a gym. If if you are in fact going to be doing some strength training, what I'd encourage you to do is more of the kind of prehab and rehab stuff. So instead of your traditional weightlifters, squats and hamstring curls and things like that, get yourself down to a Pilates class and learn about the kind of activities that will give your glutes some activation, kind of back bridges and things like that, and really work on your core functional strength rather than thinking of it as strength. A great coach I worked with once said, think of strength and conditioning as having a small s and a big C. So the strength isn't the most important part, the conditioning is the most important part. And by reducing that extra stress that you're putting on your lower body, by reducing the amount of weights work that you're doing on your legs, I think you'll find that you have an easier time in your long runs, and it won't really have any impact at all on the actual functional ability of your legs to produce force where you're going to need it, which is on the bike. If you have any more questions for Coach's Couch, please send them through. You can email me at coachrobwilby@oxygenaddict.com. You can send it through to the Cup of Tri Twitter account, which is @cupoftri. And you can go over and check out the old website. It's oxygenaddict.com if you want to have a look at the information surrounding one-to-one personal coaching. Or if you're interested in the team coaching option, you can go and check out team.oxygenaddict.com or follow the link through from the main site. We've got a great membership area there where members can interact with each other. We've got training plans that work for everybody for all distances, and most importantly, we've got the option there for you guys to not waste any time on your training, because all that thought gets done for you. All you've got to do is tick off the training that I send you every day via email and via Training Peaks, and spend the rest of your life looking at carbon bikes and carbon wheels and using your mental energy for other things. So go over and check it out over at oxygenaddict.com. Cool stuff. Right, so listen, let's wrap it up then. Thanks very much for listening. Thanks again to our sponsors. We are bikehouse.co.uk, triathlonbox.co.uk, and oxygenaddict.com triathlon coaching. And again, a big thank you to the patrons of the show who go to support us. If you want to check out details of becoming a patron, you can go to the patrons page over on you click the link from the podcast homepage there. Thanks very much for listening. I'm Coach Rob Wilby.
I'm Helen Murray.
And you've been listening to the Cup of Triathlon podcast. Thanks again. Tune in next week when we'll have more interviews. See you soon.